You're listening to the Ballet Piano Podcast, lifting the lid on dance accompaniment.
Hello, podcast fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Ballet Piano Podcast. I'm Matt Gregory, and I'm here with the whole team. Chris Hobson.
Hello.
Akiko Hobson.
Hello.
And hashtag David Yao of Instagram.
Hello. Yay.
Yeah, the whole team is here. And in today's episode, we're talking about introductions. Because they're quite important, aren't they?
Definitely. Essential.
Yeah.
Essential to make the class work, aren't they, really?
I mean, otherwise the dancers wouldn't know where to start, right?
Yeah.
Some dancers don't know when to start anyway. But that's by the by. True.
So usually an intro is 4 counts.
4 dancers count.
4 dancers count.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So we discussed this, didn't we? Was it in the rearranging repertoire episode? We talked about musicians counts and dancers counts.
Yes.
So 4 counts in a 3/4 would be 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. So that's 4 bars of 3/4.
Yeah.
And then I'll repeat myself on the 4/4 one, wasn't it? So it's musicians count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whereas dancers usually count that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so to do a good introduction, you've got to understand dancers counts for the start, haven't you?
But a good rule of thumb is for 3/4, it's 4 bars of music. And for 4/4, it's 2 bars.
2 bars.
Yeah.
That's a sort of general rule of thumb for 4 counts, for 4 dancers counts
for 4.
introduction.
And
Yeah.
for a 2, you're doing 8
so-
bars, 8 bars in.
So
Depends on the sort of 2/4 as a
yeah,
tempo.
because
and how it's written. If you think to Beethoven's Pathétique, for example, that's written in 2/4.
Right.
Yes.
Whereas when we play that in class, we consider that as a 4/4, don't we? Whereas if you're thinking of your famous hornpipes, da 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 and 2 and a 1 and 2, is 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2.
so 2 bars.
Yes. 1
1
and 2 and 3 and 4 and
Yeah, that's what you'd give as an
Yeah.
introduction,
yes,
isn't
so
it?
that would be how many bars? I've lost my train of thought now. I've got this imaginary whiteboard in my head of music. I haven't seen
I still
music for
think
ages.
that's 2 bars.
Yes.
Yeah.
2 bars.
Yeah.
We're meant to be professionals, listeners.
I guess like we are so used to dancers
We're
counting,
so
so we
used to
don't know.
doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah, you just do it when you have to break it down.
But what was
Yeah.
it like when you first had to, do an introduction for a ballet class? What was that like? Was that a big, shock?
Yes. I was working at Northern School of Contemporary Dance when I first did some ballet classes, and I'd become quite proficient in contemporary at the time.
Right.
And then went to watch somebody play a ballet class. And then he threw me on for the second side. He's like, go for it. Teacher said, and then off I went. I didn't play an introduction. I just went straight into it. I didn't realize. And in contemporary, you don't really give introductions because you just get counted in by the teachers, don't you? Or they'll give you a phrase in,
That's
and then you just start grooving along on the drum or just playing a bit of something, just vamping until you start. Whereas in ballet, obviously, the introduction is very structured, isn't it?
Yeah.
So my first introductions were horrendous for a couple of years.
Mine were, and I used to play for something that was adagio. I used to play the tonic, but sort of like a rolling arpeggio or something for 4 counts, and then the exercise would start.
So if you'd never played an introduction for a ballet class, what does an introduction consist of in terms of the tune or anything?
It's basically the end of the music, like whatever the tune you're going to play.
Right.
The last 4 bars or last 2 bars of music. If that's the safest way of the introduction.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we refer back to the hornpipe. You play the last sort of, let's say, 8 counts. You go da 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 dun 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 dun. That would be your easiest way to give an introduction for that. Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Or in a waltz, it's just. I mean, you could be very lazy. You just go cha 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 and then you can be into it. That could have almost been donkey variation. In my head.
No, but another classic intro is the 1C5-1.
Yes.
Which is the tonic second inversion for 1 count. Help me out.
Yeah.
Dominant 7th for the second count, and then a bar of tonic.
Yeah. And then
that sounds like a drink.
Gin and tonic. Ooh.
So yeah, that's a classic intro, and that can work in every key, every style, every time signature. So that's a good one. That's a good one to sort of learn. You take your tonic, second inversion.
Add a gin.
Yeah, go to the dominant seventh, finish back on the tonic, and that's a good intro over 4 counts.
And you were saying, and I think we've all done it as well, where you can just stick on your home chord, your tonic chord, and just roll an arpeggio up. Which on a 3/4 it'll work nice. You go and then into the melody.
Yeah,
right.
Is an easy way to do an introduction as well, isn't it?
Or I play sort of a little broken chord or something in the left hand.
Yeah,
for 4 dancers counts until the melody starts in the right, something like that.
I always used to find introductions on a 4/4 more difficult to get my head around than a 3/4.
Why?
I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. I just used to have a thing about, when I first started, a thing about 4/4 introductions. I just didn't like them. And I always preferred 3. Now now I've been a professional for so many years. I'm adaptable. I can now play in a 4/4.
What about intros on compound time signatures? Things like that. Things like 9/8 and 6/4s and stuff. 5/4s, yeah.
What would you play?
So 5/4, you normally have the 2 bars
Right.
of introduction, isn't it? Yeah.
I think at a 5/4, it can also be 1 bar.
Yeah.
But that's hard for dancers to
It is,
start.
yeah. I always presume if it's going to be a 5/4 that you're going to play 2 bars in.
Yeah.
Gives you a chance to
So
hear
then
the
what do you
difference.
say? Do you say 2 bars or 10 counts?
I'd usually say
2 bars.
2 bars in.
Yeah.
If I'm unsure, I'll ask the teacher. I'll say, do you want 1 bar in or 2 bar in? And usually they would let me and everybody else know that there's going to be 2 bars in. And if they don't, I'll just go, okay, right, 2 bars in. Thank you. And off we go.
Yeah. I think that's a communication thing as well. You just have to be, there's no fancy way of saying it.
Yeah.
If you're playing a polonaise, you're going to give 6 dancers counts in, aren't you?
Yeah.
1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and a 5 and a 6.
Yeah.
And that's really all you need. You just have to, say 6 counts in. You don't need to be fancy about it.
Yeah.
When I first played a polonaise, I didn't realise that dancers counted it on 6. So I did 4 bars in. Just because I didn't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if anything ambiguous, if the teacher can count along with the music, and then it's clear for everybody, isn't it?
Sometimes the teacher doesn't know. And I think it's important for the teachers to understand as well that it's okay if you don't know, and to actually, because you're still educating your students whilst you're, finding out yourself through the pianist by saying, okay, actually, I don't know how many counts I want in. Could you just play me something?
Yeah.
And your pianist will help you usually, so then you'll understand, do you want 4 bars of something or 2 bars or,
What do you want?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like the funny one you can sometimes get confused with, or not confused, but can pose a problem, can be a tarantella sometimes, can't it? Depending on how the teacher counts it.
Yeah.
They count it 1 and a 2 and a and a 4. Or they go a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4.
Exactly.
So, you've got 2 different, you could be either playing 2 bars of 6/8 there or 4 bars of 6/8. And sometimes I've done this quite recently on Zoom or before the summer break, which was I'd ask if they wanted a longer or shorter introduction. They say longer. Like, do the first side, finish, they have a chin wag, tell the things that were wrong. They go, thank you, Chris. Next side. And then I'd forget and play the short introduction.
I had a very confusing one once. The teacher started to mark this, whatever the exercise, with the Coppelier Girls variation. Dun, dun, da, da, dun, 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 da, da, dun. But that
was beautifully sung, that.
Thank you. Chris, I'm embarrassed now. So
you interrupted the story.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Continue.
So for us, how it's written is that beat is upbeat, and then that beat's the first beat of the bar.
Yeah.
But the teacher marked the exercise as that as first one.
Yeah.
So I play the introduction, go 1 and 2 and 3 and dun dun. And it just all became so confusing.
Oh.
The teacher didn't understand what I was doing. And I didn't understand why they start so early. And it just became very complicated.
Yeah. That's so important to understand for a teacher, to understand what an anacrusis is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that you need to know a little bit about music to understand that there's something before the beat that it's going to have a little introduction before that to help you to get into, to everybody arrive on the beat.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's often confusing.
That leads on really nicely, David, to an email that came in from Memphis, Tennessee. And it was the same situation. She sent us this piece of music over, and the start of the melody, it wasn't on count one. I think the melody started on count 3 or something. And then I think when you listen to something like that, you have to sort of listen to the whole piece of music.
Yes.
And then find the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if those odd little beats cut into your introduction, then so be it.
Yes.
Make that part of your intro.
Yeah.
And start where it naturally wants to on the dancers count 1.
And I think for a new teacher to have the confidence to say, let's just listen to that tune and start counting it together. So you're introducing your student to what an anacrusis is and where the beat actually lies.
David, this is why you're a dream.
This is why we all fight over who plays for you in the studio.
I know. Because David really uses the music to great effect.
Yes.
Oh, bless.
Red. That's just a wonderful example. Let's just have a listen, and then we'll find out where it is together.
Yeah.
And also, if you're not sure, you ask the pianist rather than just try to teach something that you don't know. So, which is
because I think it happens because in some teachers' courses, they regard the teacher as being almost like a conductor, whereas really I kind of like feel it's like it's like a conversation. Yeah. So both sides are equally important, and we play one off the other.
Yeah,
and sometimes you lead, sometimes I lead, and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
you're all sort of learning from each other, and you're teaching the students about music being a vital part of what we're doing.
Intros can be funny, can't they? Because you can just by accident sometimes get it wrong.
Yeah.
And,
both sides.
It doesn't matter how many years or decades you've been playing for dance. Sometimes, we're all only human, so you do only make mistakes. And there's that great clip from somebody on Instagram who's called Favorite Nick that we've just put on. And it's great because he's playing a beautiful introduction, but doesn't realize he's accidentally dropped a beat. And the only reason we've stuck it on the website and on the socials is because we all do it by accident sometimes. So I did it, I don't know, about 6 months ago when we were back in the studio, but I just don't have a video of it. I didn't realize, I was excited about playing something for David, and I just did 3 bars in or 3 counts in and went straight into it, not knowing that, I just didn't think at the time because I was so excited to play whatever the tune was, I think.
Well, David, you're very sort of adventurous with your introductions. With just these chords and things to make everybody listen.
Totally. Sometimes I ask the pianist on purpose, don't play any introduction, we're going straight in.
Yeah.
And sort of there's a little bit of frisson there. There's like an excitement because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you have to listen to each other and follow and everything. That's good for the student to hear.
Yeah.
And for any dancer to make you listen because that's what it is. It's a conversation between everybody. So I enjoy doing that.
Or just chords on count 1 of the bar or something. It's
that really makes you listen to.
It does. But when you're not playing a sort of big introduction, if you're just playing chords, there's like you say, there's a bit of tension, there's a bit of what's going to happen.
Yeah, it builds upon this expectation.
It's great. It's a great little thing to do.
Have you had this experience that you start playing the introduction and you just only played about 2 counts, and then the teacher said, "Oh, no, not that one." Or it's the wrong kind of music. How do you know? I only played 2 counts. How can you tell what I'm going to play?
Yeah, totally.
I was told the story from a colleague, the same sort of thing. He started playing, I think he did 3 or 4 bars of the introduction. And the teacher said, "Oh, no, not that one." But colleague responded to him, "How do you know what I'm going to play?" Because I don't, because I'm improvising.
But they just sometimes say no, it's just fast chords. I just sometimes don't understand.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's because they have a tune in their head and they're expecting something like that tune. And if they don't hear it in the introduction, then they think something is wrong rather than letting the music happen and then finding out later.
That's what you said, Akiko, isn't it? When a teacher said to you in the centre, "Okay, play something and we'll mark it along." Going slightly off topic, and you started playing, and the teacher said, "Oh no, don't want that." But you were improvising. It's like, well, I don't know you don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be. But yeah.
But then you can get the introductions where it's just 2 counts of an introduction, or just 2 chords, and then start. I had that a few years ago in an assessment. There was a guest from the Royal Ballet teaching this assessment class, and he just wanted 2 chords before every exercise at the bar. Not even in time with the 3-4 that would be for the pliés or the quick 2 that we would do for the jeté. So he'd just go chord, chord, and then go into something. And the students,
That's very difficult.
But that was, I think he was Russian. Forgive me if I've got that wrong, because I can't remember what the guy was called. But it was a weird way of doing it, because it wasn't weird. I suppose it's just different and it's unexpected, isn't it? And they weren't used to it. And it's what you're used to. I've also heard stories about teachers saying they just want 2 counts in, partly to save time. So a pianist who I know told me this story. But so the pianist was told, but none of I think it was the graduating year at this very prestigious school in the UK. None of those students were told. So they were always 2 bars late, and it took them a while to catch up. Apparently the teacher was on musical, so it didn't really everything just mishmashed together.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you're given free rein for the introduction, you just give 4 as standard.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing something really slow, would you say, just 2 in? What would you do? If
I was going to do 2 in, I'd always just shout from behind. I'd just say,
just 2 in. Just 2 in. If it's, I would do the same. But, the general purpose of an introduction is, the timing, the tempo, the feel of the music.
I know. It's everything.
So much information is going through.
Yeah, and that's why they're important. So then just to ask for 2 chords and then to play something that's completely
off. It seems it went against my training.
Shock, isn't it? Yeah.
You want to give the dancers as much help in those 4 counts as possible.
Exactly.
Especially if it's something like they're going out on the end and coming back in on the 1. Their first bit eats into the introduction.
Yeah, so if you've only done 2 chords, you're not going to get that pick up and a 1. It's going to make it incredibly difficult. Everyone's going to be off it.
Yeah. So intros are very important, aren't they?
They are, and it's something that you learn and evolve with. I think introductions evolve along with you as a pianist and your experience, and with your repertoire as well. We've all been through the stages where you just have like 3 or 4 set introductions, and then the more experience you get and the more confidence you get in the studio, you can start to mess about with dynamics and textures, and putting the accompaniment in the right hand and playing the last 4 bars of the melody in the left hand and swapping things around.
Yes,
just so it can be a little bit more interesting.
I mean, a thing that I do for intros, I've said this in a previous episode, I'll just play 2 bars of crotchets really low, and then I'll put something that just fits into that meter.
Yeah,
and I'll change it up and what have you. So they just get bum 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 bum.
You need those.
Something like that, and they're there for their 4 counts introduction, and they're listening, and they're what's going to come next. So it's another way of keeping everyone listeling.
You put key changes in your introductions. Anyone?
Christopher.
Yes, I've literally. I don't know why I do this, but if you're just playing your dominant 7th, I'll just I'll just keep dominant 7ths going up chromatically till I'm at the key that I want to play in.
It's like, if I'm going to say, sometimes say if I'm going to say, example, Elvis Costello, I'll play that in D flat major, but I'll do my introduction in C major. So I'll do D minor 7, G7. C major, and then do A flat 7, and then start in D flat when the tune starts, and put a nice little ascending scale in there. And it sounds a bit bougie. It doesn't particularly sound expensive, and it's not expensive. It's a bit of a cheap cop out, but it does make people listen.
That's a nice one. But sometimes Chris does what he does is that when we do sometimes we do a duet in one class.
Oh yeah,
we play together, improvise together, which is good. But he just wants to make his best to confuse me. because I've got perfect pitch, so he just wants to confuse me.
So you have perfect pitch. I don't think you've ever mentioned that.
Yes, I have perfect pitch, yes. And then he plays the introduction, literally every count, different chord, yeah?
Yeah.
To just confuse me, that's that I wouldn't know which key he is going to start. It's too much effort to confuse me.
No, it's not. It's good fun.
And then whatever key he lands in, you've got to play the tune of that key.
Yes, well, I just have to get on with it, and it's highly annoying.
As you said, just get on with it. Stop complaining. We complain enough at home. Let's not bring it out into the public world.
I mean, something I do that's not an intro is if I play Stevie Wonder by Lately by Stevie Wonder, and it's in D flat, but the very last chord is E flat major 7.
Yeah.
Have you heard that? It just little arpeggio. And I always play that, sometimes I'll finish on the tonic, but sometimes I'll put that in. And of course it sounds wrong, but that's the music.
Right.
And, the ones that know Stevie Wonder in the class will look at you and be like, yeah, winky face, we know what you did.
And the ones that don't look at you, it's just like, eh?
You're paid for this?
Yeah. I'll tell you what I was doing for a little bit. I don't think I've done it for a while, is I did a little 4-count introduction for Adagio, the Spartacus one.
Mm.
But then, so do the introductions if you're going to go into Spartacus and then go into Lawrence of Arabia. Because that's just been a bit of a tease, isn't it?
So you have a lot of fun with your intros, don't you?
Yes.
You do.
Just mess about.
That's good.
I didn't know you guys are so passionate about intro.
I didn't realise how much effort I put into the introductions and what fun they are until we've sat here and talked about it the last 20 odd minutes.
I mean, a big intro for a big rondolegro, I think, is quite important.
Yeah.
Because it's the biggest jump of the class.
Mm.
Yeah, you've got to then, because they could be running on the Ando 1 or something. Yeah. So I think intros are really important.
Mm.
Defo. So listeners,
that is it for another episode of the Ballet Piano Podcast. You can join us on the social medias, comment, like, share our posts, slide into the DMs and tell us what you think of the podcast. We'd really appreciate it. Why not join our mailing list, which is balletpianopodcast.com, and join our mailing list there, where you will receive updates, newsletters, anything that's going on in the podcast. You will find out about it there.
You will. So I think for now, it's going to be goodbye from me.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye.